Favor is released when the sickle is used. Mark chapter 4, verse 29 says, "But when the grain is ripe and permits, immediately he sends forth the sickle, because the harvest has come." And Ecclesiastes 11:4, the Amplified Classic says, "He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap." There's a defining moment in every harvest season, a moment when waiting becomes disobedient. Jesus describes it clearly in Mark chapter 4, verse 29. When the grain is ripe and permits, immediately he sends forth the sickle. That word immediately is very important. Harvest does not reward hesitation. Favor flows when action aligns with timing. We've established that seed time and harvest are eternal laws, that you were created to reap, that favor requires participation, and that harvesting is an art many of laws. Now we come to a critical turning point. Favor is released when the sickle is used. The sickle represents decisive action. It is the willingness to act when God has prepared the outcome. It's not impatience. It is discernment. It is stewardship. When the harvest is ripe, doing nothing is no longer faith, it's neglect. Many believers wait for perfect conditions before they can act. Ecclesiastes 11:4 exposes that trap. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. In other words, if you are always watching circumstances, you will always find a reason to delay. There'll always be a wind, a cloud, a storm. There'll always be some level of uncertainty. That is where fear often disguises itself as wisdom. We tell ourselves we're being cautious, prayerful, patient, when in reality we're avoiding the risk of faith. But harvest always requires responsibility. Reaping means you must manage what comes next. It means increase brings accountability, and that favor changes your level of stewardship. Using the sickle as a declaration, I believe God has done his part. I'm ready to do mine. The farmer in Jesus' parable does not make the seed grow. He doesn't control the soil. He does not command the weather. But when the grain is ripe, he acts without delay. He understands that timing is everything. Miss the moment, and that harvest will suffer. This is why some believers experience partial harvest instead of a full manifestation. They recognize that something has changed, but they hesitate to act fully. They step halfway. They delay their decisions. They wait for one more confirmation, one more sign, one more assurance, until that moment passes. Favor often comes quietly. It does not announce itself with noise or drama. Sometimes favor just shows up as an opportunity, looks like an open door that requires courage to walk through, or appears as an uncomfortable decision that demands trust. Reaping is not aggressive, it's appropriate. It is simply responding to what God has already produced and promised. When you harvest, you are not forcing anything, you are receiving what is ready. This is why Scripture says the grain permits. Harvest is not stolen, it is allowed. Many believers have prayed for favor but resisted the harvest because it required action they were not prepared to take. They asked for increase but feared the responsibility of it. They asked for open doors but hesitated to walk through them. Asked for growth but avoided the change that growth would require. Favor is not released through avoidance. Favor always flows through obedience. I hope you would examine your own life honestly. Where has God already prepared something but you have delayed using the sickle? Or has fear disguised itself as waiting, and God has said now, but you responded with soon? The sickle is faith in motion. It is trust expressed through action. It is the courage to step into what God has already made ready for you. As we move forward, remember this: favor does not stop at preparation. Favor is fulfilled through possession of the promise. When the harvest is right, heaven expects movement. So do not be afraid of your harvest. Do not hesitate in your season of favor. Pick up that sickle, because the time of harvest is now. Make this confession with me. I declare that I recognize when my harvest is ready. I do not delay or hesitate in seasons of favor. Fear will not keep me from acting in faith, because I take hold of what God has prepared for me. I use the sickle with confidence and obedience. God's favor is released as I move forward in faith, and I am anointed to win, empowered to prosper, and impossible to curse. In Jesus' name.